Welcome back to Fire Emblem the Blazing Blade. Last time, we completed Lynn's story. She defeated her evil grunkle, that's a funny term, Lundgren, and saved her grandfather and the land of Kalen. But now we're gonna go through a bit of a time skip as we follow the adventures of mostly Eliwood. So he's the story's real protagonist, even on Hector mode. But I'm going to be using Hector for the main playthrough because, as I said at the start of this series, Hector mode has some exclusive chapters and exclusive characters, while also having some altered scenes that give Lynn a bit more presence in the story too. However, Eliwood's story also has a hard mode, so I want to talk a little bit about how hard mode works now. Eliwood hard mode does not actually raise the stats of any unpromoted enemies, which is weird. The only stat modifications that it does are that promoted enemies are given 19 extra levels instead of 9. Essentially, think of them as promoting at level 20 instead of level 10. This does not affect boss stats, though, even promoted bosses. That's not to say there are no changes on Eliwood hard mode. You have less deployment slots, and some maps have new enemies added to them. And I think you get slightly less experience. But overall, if you want a real challenge with this game, you don't want Eliwood hard. You want the mode that I actually haven't unlocked in this file, because you need to beat Eliwood once, then beat Hector normal, and then you unlock Hector hard mode, which is a term you might have heard thrown around in the fanbase of this game, because it is this game's equivalent of lunatic/maddening in later games. It's not nearly as hard as any of those, but it is by far the most difficult this game ever gets. Not only are there more enemies, you get less experience and less deployment slots, but some maps shake things up significantly. We're talking Fog of War where there wasn't before, or every enemy being replaced by a magic user. Also, on Hector hard mode only, every enemy gets 5 invisible level ups on top of what level they were before. This also applies to recruitable enemies. Fans often refer to this as hard mode bonuses, but so it's important to note that in this game, Eliwood hard does not have any hard mode bonuses. Every character's base stats will be the same. If you're experienced with the lunatic or maddening modes in future games, you probably won't find Hector hard that difficult. But for its time, it was the biggest challenge in the series. In fact, I think it wasn't beaten in challenge until Radiant Dawn hard mode came out. But I'll be playing Hector normal because that's the mode that I most enjoy. Okay, there may be a little bit of weirdness in this recording because I actually was planning on doing Hector's first chapter first and then uploading the first of Eliwood's mode afterwards, and then I found out that Hector's chapter 11 pretty much assumes you already know the story of Eliwood's chapter 11, and it would be very confusing to have them in that order. So, I am actually going to be starting with Eliwood chapter 11. Trust me, you will see why. So yeah, as of chapter 11, Eliwood becomes the story's main character. This is described to you even if you're playing Hector's story, because he is still the protagonist. Mark's role will to act as a tactician, help Eliwood fulfill the chapter goals, and fight his way to the end of the game. You'll start your first campaign with Eliwood, then meet his friend Hector in chapter 12. That's if you're playing Eliwood's story. It's kind of the reverse for Hector. If any of these 3 are defeated, your game will be over. So yeah, all 3 lords. Can't let any of them fall. And yeah, now the game is explaining that the gloves are indeed off. Permadeath is on from this point onwards. 1 year later. Once, Dragon fought man in a war called the Scouring. Mankind vanquished the dragons thanks to the efforts of 8 heroes. These 8 mighty generals brought peace to Eliwood. The continent was divided into nations, and the people enjoyed an easy prosperity. The hero Hartmut settled in the east and founded Bern, famed for its military mights. He also apparently had a kid with a dragon, but that's in the manga and nobody liked that plot point. Saint Elimine moved west, and her sacred name flourished among the artisans and Mario Kart players of Uturia. The horseman Hanon's legacy lived on with the nomads of... Wrong! Her! Yeah! I don't know why they made this mistake. Hanon is a girl. This is completely confirmed in Binding Blade. The birthplace of the Knights Baragon is now home to the renowned Knights of Ilia. Yeah, Baragon is one of the 8 legends we know probably the least about. We kind of know that he was a knight, and the way that he's described, he kind of sounds like he'd be a great knight, but that class doesn't exist in this game. Or FE6. The Berserker Durban's final glory was to create a warriors clan in the Western Isles. The Archsage Arthos is said to have retired to the barren wasteland of Nabata. The heirs of the champion Roland themselves became the lords of the Lycian League. Yeah, I wonder if that implies that Roland had multiple children and his children each inherited different provinces. Elebe has enjoyed a peace that spans 980 years, because we needed it to be exactly 1,000 years by the time of Binding Blade. Because as My Little Pony confirms, everything important in the backstory of Fantasy Worlds always happened exactly 1,000 years ago. It was a very busy time. How much longer can this peace stand before its foundations begin to crumble? Deep within the Lycian League lies Foray, a land that has known no conflicts for many generations, but which now finds itself touched by a shadow of unease. Its beloved and benevolent ruler, Lord Elbert, has mysteriously vanished, as have a number of his sworn men, loyal knights who serve at his side. A month has passed without word from the Marquis. Rumours of his death abound. However, the Marquis's son believes his father lives, and he has vowed to find him. Marquis Foray's son, Eliwood, a red-haired youth who will one day become the finest knight in all of Lycia. His long journey begins here. And the reason why I'm uploading this part first is because on Hector's story, you get no context whatsoever for any of that. Taking leave, this makes it sound like he's taking time off work, but I guess he kinda is. He's taking time off of, running the, place in his father's absence. Oh boy, it's this guy. I believe this is our first time seeing him, and, I have thoughts on this guy. Thoughts. I also have thoughts on this woman. So yeah, this is Eliwood's mother, and she not only has a pretty cool portrait, but fun fact, Eliwood's mother actually has stats in the game's code, and they're pretty high. Not only are they high, but she's also a bishop who can use anima magic instead of light magic. I don't know if there was any plans for her to be a playable character, but she has that really unique trait. Maybe if this game included trial map, she would have been a trial map character? Anyway, I'm talking over the heartfelt goodbye between, Eliwood's only like 17. So I guess I could call him a kid and his mother. It's really funny how in Heroes he's voiced by Yuri Lowenthal just like Marth. Though I do like how Yuri Lowenthal gradually differentiated his Eliwood performance from his Marth performance. At first they sounded about the same. Oh hey, Isadora's here. So Isadora is somebody that you will know if you've played this game already, but, this is her first appearance. Isadora is just gonna stand back and guard Eleonora, I believe her name is. Though she's sometimes called Lady Eleanor because inconsistent translation. The translation of this game, I guess I can sum it up, is it's good until it isn't. And when it isn't, it's really bad. But like 80% of the time, it's excellent. My man Lowen will be traveling with us. Well, yeah, we don't have a red knight, green knight for this party, but instead we have a yellow knight. Which I think is actually a... Is that a combination of red and green in certain kinds of color theory? Maybe light mixing? I know that light mixing is different from paint mixing. I learned this as a kid, I swear, but not, you know, a lot of those details have been forgotten. Have been supplanted in my head with Fire Emblem knowledge instead. Oh, don't worry, we don't need a larger company, we've got you. You're the largest company we ever need. Marcus can almost certainly solo the next several chapters, maybe like even 10. I'd rather not deprive my mother of a single guard. Again, given her stats, she can probably handle herself. Granted, one of the knights of the realm who did disappear with Eliwood's father was legitimately one of the best knights in the realm, but he's almost certainly dead. There's no chance we'll ever be running into him on our travels. But if we did, he'd probably be extremely overpowered. And, well, this is kind of like a total reset for the story, and by that I mean, it's bandits again. In fact, if you played FE6, which, you know, if you were Japanese, you probably did play that first, this is probably a direct reference to the plot of FE6. The Marquis of Ferre's father is kind of indisposed, so the bandits are attacking. I do think this game works as both a prequel and as a game played first. And yes, here it is, Mr. Sir Mophead himself. I forgot how moppy Lowen's hair looked. Also, he's very Brock from Pokemon, and you almost never see his eyes open. I don't think you actually do ever see his eyes open. I don't think you do. I think he's an official art you do. It's bandits! What? Bandits? I can't possibly believe it! There could never be any bandits attacking a village in a Fire Emblem game. And rescue drop. So yes, this is Rebecca, the daughter of the village magistrate. This detail is not going to be relevant after this chapter because Rebecca can just die like any other unit. Although that's actually kind of breaking canon. I'll explain that maybe during the chapter because it's a weird detail. Also, I do like this song quite a bit. We've probably heard it before though. We must aid the village. You'd rather fight. You hunt almost every day, but, I mean, that's animals. I mean, this is kind of the equivalent of a villager in Age of Empires being like, hey, I can fight well against actual military units because I have experience shooting deer. To be fair, wild boar are absolute menaces in Age of Empires, probably more dangerous than a lot of military units, but still. Ah, right. This one. This. Yeah. This is Mark, who is still a green unit. Hi there. And with this, we get to see Eliwood's looking forward portrait. Yes, we met Mark very, very shortly during the trouble in Kalen last year. Fantastic military advisor who is a veteran of the incredibly easy tutorial campaign. Yes. People accuse the later games of, like, player pandering with the avatars. This definitely feels like it got its start here. Oh, without you, Lyn would never have survived at all. I mean, to be fair, given, how people think Lyn's a bad unit now. So yeah, in later playthroughs, you can actually turn off the tactician, so I believe this entire scene is skipped in that case. I love just seeing all the enemies just randomly start walking everywhere. But yes, now it is time. Here is Eliwood.
I may not have the strongest constitution, but battles are not decided by brute strength alone.
Hey look, it's Eliwood, the one lord in this game who was reevaluated positively over the years. I'm so happy for him. So, Eliwood has a lot of the same flaws as Lyn. He's on foot, locked to swords, and starts with fairly mediocre stats. Unlike Lyn though, he doesn't have overkill skill or speed. In fact, his growths are very average all round, just with lowish defense. Fun fact, if you played Binding Blade, Eliwood's base stats are identical to Roy's, except he has one more con. Like Lyn, he does have a personal weapon, one he starts with, the Rapier, and just like Lyn, it's effective against Armor Knights and Cavalry, though it doesn't have a massively higher crit rate. Just like Hector's Wolfbale, you only get one copy of this on the opposite Lord's story, in this case Hector's, while if you're playing Eliwood's story, you'll get a second Rapier later. Something to bear in mind when it comes to rationing its uses. Eliwood has a pretty miserable time as a combat unit for the majority of the game, but is arguably the most rewarding lord to promote because his promotion gives him a horse and access to lances and therefore javelins. On Eliwood mode, he has a force promotion quite late into the game, but on Hector mode you can promote him early with the same item that promotes Lyn. So you've got a choice there, and objectively Eliwood's the better option. Another mode difference is that Eliwood will be force deployed to every chapter in his story, while in Hector's story, he's only forced in very specific maps. I still recommend training him at least a little so he doesn't get one-shot in those maps. But if you're confident in your ability to keep him protected, you can avoid training Eliwood. But he is arguably the best of the three lords after promotion. And he has some easy supports with fairly strong characters like Marcus, Lowen, and Hector. And this guy. Hi, Marcus.
My name is Marcus. I will scatter the meager foes who approach you.
Whoever wrote his dialogue in Heroes knew what they were doing. Marcus is this game's take on the classic Jagan archetype. A pre-promoted character, usually a paladin, who starts much stronger than the rest of your army, and is intended to act as a crutch, getting you through difficult enemies or visiting far-off villages in the early game while the rest of your army gets trained up. In theory, Jagans are meant to have low growth rates, so that they eventually fall off when your other characters start getting stronger and promoting. Just like Lyn though, there is a problem. Say it with me. Enemies in Blazing Blade are weak and slow. What this means for Marcus is that he will consistently double almost everything in the game, and only needs to gain a few points on his base speed, on a 25% growth, which is pretty likely, to double everything he needs to. And that base strength of 15 and ability to use silver swords and lances means getting hit by Marcus twice almost always spells death. And he doesn't even need silver weapons most of the time, because remember what I said earlier about javelins and hand axes being broken? Well, Marcus can use both, and he can sweep the vast majority of the game with them alone. And he has enough con to lose no speed from javelins and only 1 from hand axes. So, thanks to all that, Marcus is one of the best and most overpowered Jagans in the entire franchise. But unlike Seth and Titania, who have very good growths, Marcus gets by because enemies are so weak that he can coast on his bases for 90% of the game. And his growths are just enough to get him the points he needs to take on the whole game. All that said, I don't recommend avoiding Marcus. I still intend to make use of him, and I would recommend that you do as well. It's just that he can kind of solo the game if you want, and you'll need to decide for yourself whether you find that playstyle fun. And now, another Cavalier, Lowen.
I slept past breakfast. What?
Lowen is a very interesting character. As a Cavalier, his growth build isn't as obviously flashy as Kent or Sane, having mediocre strength, skill, and speed, and having his best growths being in HP and luck. However, he does have a very good defense growth and a fairly solid defense base, alongside his great HP, making him the tankiest of the Cavaliers. And even though he joined in the same chapter as Marcus, like I said with Kent and Sane, you should never say no to 2 paladins just because one is better. Lowen can perform all of the utility Cavaliers normally can, while still being a decent combat unit when trained up, and having the benefit of also being very tanky. Another interesting advantage Lowen has is the most con of any of the game's paladins, letting him use some heavier weapons without speed penalty, though this also means he's the worst paladin at rescuing. If you skip Lin mode, Lewin has significantly more opportunity to level up than Kent or Sane, making him likely better than those two by the point they rejoin. However, if you did play Lin mode, Kent and Sane can easily outstrip him. But again, this is a two-cake situation. Having multiple good Cavaliers is always a great thing. And finally...
I'm pretty good with a bow. Or that's what they say.
Rebecca suffers from the exact same problem Will does. She's an archer, and bows got nerfed in the localization. And even if they weren't, archers still struggle to get kills, and therefore stay behind a lot of your army in experience gain. But if you really like snipers, Rebecca does have some things to offer over Will. Fire affinity makes her support great for offense, and Rebecca's excellent speed growth and 29 speed cap make her one of the few people capable of doubling some very scary Hector hard mode only enemies later in the game. There are some notable exceptions to the FE7 enemies are weak and slow rule. And while Rebecca does have 2 points less base strength than Will and 10% less strength growth, she gets a much bigger promotion bonus to strength than Will does, despite promoting to the same class. Like Will, she's typically not great, but this is a game where you can make almost anyone work. So yeah, we have a village here. We've got a bunch of bandits. This one's not in range of the village. We will need to take this one out first, and we probably will be able to do that via a combination of a few people. So how much damage does Eliwood do off the bat? Okay, he does half its health. Meanwhile, Lowen also does half its health. And Rebecca, I kind of doubt you note Rebecca isn't going to set up for a kill. And Marcus will just brutalize, complete one-shot. Okay, yeah, so... Now, I want to say that in this run, I might actually be trading my lords. Ah, okay, right. I need to go into the options here. So, from Lin's story, I had the animations on solo, just so that Nils would not have the animations. Now I just have to remember that for every new character who joins, I have to turn the animations back on. But I guess Lowen kind of deserves his first combat.
Have at you!
That's a good sign. Not having an animation because Lowen's, you know, he's kind of generic. In, like, sort of the best possible way. Okay, that bandit will be able to attack Rebecca if he goes there. I don't want that guy to attack Marcus, but I also kind of want Marcus to run in and take out this archer. Something that some people like doing is trading Marcus's steel sword over to Eliwood, so that Eliwood has another option. It's like way more efficient to have Marcus keep the steel sword. Yep, going for Marcus, you are almost certainly dead. Because Marcus is ridiculously OP. And while, like, a lot of people might cry, like, back in the day, people used to go, "Oh, Marcus is an EXP thief." But, like, there's actually a thing about that I finally heard, like, a video from Mecha explaining it well, but, I'll talk about that after this, because we have some new allies, and we also have Roy's theme playing. So, one of them will be familiar to us from Lin's story, the other is new. And these two already have kind of like a hot-blooded / calm thing going. I, a while back, added Dorcas and Bartray to the sensitive guy and manly man trope on TV tropes. But yeah, here's Dorcas. If you trained him in Lin's story, he will keep whatever stats he had at the end of that. You might notice that he has a little bit of experience for me. Meanwhile, we also have Bartray.
A true warrior needs only his muscles. Check out these arms.
Bartray is a weird unit for a number of reasons. The first is that he's meant to be the speedy fighter in comparison to Dorcas, having a much better speed growth. Unfortunately, his speed base is shockingly low. Yeah, in a game with enemies this slow, having genuinely bad speed is an accomplishment. And a 40% growth is far from guaranteed. If he doesn't get lucky with that for his first few level ups, he will be really struggling to do meaningful damage. Being that RNG reliant is a really bad thing, and even if you do manage to train him and get lucky, your reward is a solid axe user, a role that's also fulfilled by paladins. But that's not the reason I said Bartray is a weird unit. If you are playing Hector's story, and you're a recruitment perfectionist, which I happen to be, you must train Bartray to at least level 10, promote him, and then train him to at least level 5 promoted. Bear in mind, this is Hector mode, where you already have Hector, a much better on-foot axe user. But you have to do this if you want to recruit the second Hector exclusive character. But they must be incredible if you have to go through all that to get them, right? They are the worst unit in the entire game. Yeah. But I'm a recruitment perfectionist. I have to do this. Wish me luck! Judy is everything to him, huh? Actually, I forgot there was one of Eliwood's guardsmen. But anyway, on this run, I am not going to be training Bartray, but I can go ahead and, let's see, I would kind of like Lowen to get a little bit of experience. Oh hey, Lowen exactly one-rounds this guy. Maybe I don't need Marcus to take out this archer. Well, no, I definitely don't need Marcus to take out this archer. So yeah, the thing that I was saying about, like, EXP thieves and how that logic sort of, kind of changed. The way that I found it described, was, as such. So Marcus, like, only got literally 4 experience from that fight. But the thing is that the stronger a character is, the more fights they can actually afford to take. Or you can just simply shove them in the middle of a horde of enemies in the enemy phase and just have, like, 10 to 20 enemies rush into them and die in one turn. And even if each of those enemies is only giving 4 experience, they're gonna be giving a lot overall, just because of the sheer numbers. And because of the fact that characters who have higher base levels and generally higher base stats can take more fights safely, like, for example, taking like 20 fights worth 4 experience is overall going to be giving you more in the long run than only being able to safely take 1 fight per turn that gives you 30. So that's the kind of counter-argument to the whole EXP thieves thing. At the same time, though, I still just, like, I will use Marcus where I can. I just don't personally find, oh, hey, you have a free energy ring. I'll have to think about who to use that on. Or use that on no one if you're going for a ranked run, potentially, because they are worth a lot of gold. I'll give those over to you. It might be Eliwood. Kind of thinking of using Lowen in my, like, actual main playthrough. Okay, he doesn't double that one. So that's 5 speed, 5... Okay, yeah, he doesn't double anything that has 5 speed. But he might be able to get an assist kill here. So yeah, one thing to note about this chapter is that you don't have a healer. So vulneraries are your entire healing supply. So you'll need to make sure that you have enough of them, and, well, okay, well, that guy's not dying to that. He's not dying to that either, and he's not dying to that either. So I think Bartray will attempt to... Oh, that's a one-shot, and I kind of don't want to feed kills to Bartray in this run. And that's also a kill. Eliwood already got a kill, so I think I'll go for the... Okay, Steel Sword's lowering his avoid a little bit. So I'm being a little indecisive here, but I think I will actually go for Lowen first. I think if the other 2 bandits hit him, he's still fine. Alright, yeah, they can go for him because they can just go right around there. And let's go for the Eliwood finisher, because as I said, I might actually be training Eliwood in this run. I've since found out that it actually doesn't matter which of the versions of a later chapter that you get. Like, you are still able to unlock this hidden Hector conversation. But I do kind of want to show the one particular version of it. So, yeah, we'll see. I guess you can go ahead and get a head start on visiting these houses. You don't need to, but it gives you some info. Ah, weapon levels. The more you use a weapon, the more skilled you become. I probably would have already explained this during Lynn's story. You can only reach the highest level with a single weapon. Ah, that sucks for staff used in this game, because there is no S-rank staff. So if you end up getting your 1 S-rank in staves, it robs you of using the S-rank light tome. That was not the case in Fire Emblem Binding Blade, and I kind of wish they had kept that, because, yeah, or at least I wish there had been an S-rank staff in this game. I don't know why there isn't, but, like, for some reason, they're just like, yeah, we don't need an S-rank staff. Could you get, like, slight bonuses to combat, depending on, like, what, your weapon rank is? I believe, I probably will have, like, already checked the, just full disclosure, I'm actually recording this ahead of time, just because I want to do Eliwood's run as a practice playthrough, but also record the Eliwood exclusive chapters at the same time. 9 HP, you can get the kill there. Kind of going for at least 1 level up on Eliwood and Lowen here. And let's see what we get there. Well, that's kind of typical Eliwood. Usually he kind of gets luck as well. Alright. I wonder if this actually changes if you don't have... Huh. Hang on. I am actually going to check Serenade's Forest, see if that dialogue changes if you don't have the Tactician turned on. So Serenade's Forest doesn't actually list the dialogue there as being any different. But I do wonder about that. I might have to actually go and check to see if, because I could easily replay all of Lynn's story. I might actually check to see if that dialogue is different if you are, again, don't have the Tactician turned on. I don't often play like that because it is objectively worse. Even if some people might prefer the story without the Tactician. I could get a Rebecca. No, I couldn't get a Rebecca kill here, because Rebecca, I guess. But I can get a Lowen kill here. And that might be useful in the end. Second level up of the chapter, let's go. That is also very typical of Lowen. But he still manages to be good simply due to being a Cavalier. You know what? Yeah, I am actually going to use Marcus here just because this guy's going to be really annoying if I don't get rid of him on the player phase. Because, yeah, unless he attacks Bartray and Bartray won't double him, he's probably not going to die on the enemy phase. So, yeah, let's have Eliwood run in there. I'm going to bank on you to attack Eliwood. Apparently, if you're going for a ranked run, you kind of want to conserve the Rapier because it's worth a lot of gold. But, I don't know, it's probably fine to use it now. Also here, this shop only sells vulneraries. Now also, you start with 10,000 gold in Eliwood's story. You do not start with that in Hector's story. And that makes Hector's story considerably more difficult in the early game, or at least it makes you considerably more reliant on having, finding the early red gems. In particular, for a lot of runs, losing that red gem in the last chapter is a reset point for Hector. Okay, so I have an idea here. How much damage does Lowen take from Mr. Bossman? 7. Okay. I was gonna have him use the energy drop, but, I kinda wanna kill off this bandit. So yeah, we just have the boss left. If you're using markers extensively, you can end this chapter way, earlier. But I think I'm gonna... Yeah, you don't have a hand axe, you're fine. I'm gonna give the Draco Shield to Eliwood. And then I'm gonna move these guys in, and, like, I would normally say, oh yeah, you might want to trade up Bartray a little bit if you're on Hector's story, but, no, you can't possibly be on Hector's story and be playing this mission. All of the knights were supposed to have been gone with their leader. There's no way they'd leave any of them behind. I mean, to be honest, I'm absolutely shocked that Foray decided to leave Marcus behind. Like, if Marcus went with Elbert, then the plot of this game probably wouldn't have happened, because Marcus would have just soloed anybody who would try and make him disappear. But yeah, let's give you a little bit more strength. Let's have... Oh, Eliwood's doubling already. Nice. I mean, this guy's kind of slow, right? Oh, he's even slower than his some of his lackeys. And hence why Marcus is OP. Let you heal up a tiny little bit, and then let you attempt to chop Eliwood, which you probably, well, you hit him, but you're probably still not gonna, I had a feeling that might happen. Go Eliwood! This guy's name, it almost makes me picture him with, like, a really, really thick Russian accent. And he is down. Are we gonna get a level out of that? Okay, good. I would have really, been bothered by not getting a level there. Oh, hey, resistance. I guess he's gonna go the way of Ike in my Path of Radiance Iron Man. I wonder how long ago that will have been by the time I actually upload this. But yeah, Eliwood looks fine. If you want to buy any more vulneraries, you can. But other than that, yeah, this chapter's pretty much done. Let's seize the gate. Okay, I was wondering, like, how this chapter actually moved the story forward at all, like the battle against the bandits, but it's giving you some kind of insight into, while, you know, this province has lords that actually care about the people, the one that's next door might be a little bit less fortunate. And also, it seems like they're preparing for war. Oh boy, they could go to war any day now. That certainly sounds, well, like a Fire Emblem game, but also, if a lot of the people of Laos are talking about that, then it probably is true. And, yeah, all of our best knights, besides Marcus, just left with Elbert, so if war is starting, he could very easily try and make a push for our territory. He's also shot to the top of our suspects list for who made Eliwood's father go missing for a month. And so we have our next destination. And we're apparently traveling together with him, because tactician. I am a blank slate self-insert protagonist. Of course I have no specific destination in mind. But yeah, we're getting an indication of where the story's gonna go. A small group with a single purpose, to find my father. It's not gonna be a small group by the time we're done with it, though. Oh boy. Like, I would normally say, that, I kind of wish Mark could actually fight in combat, but then again, if they did, they'd probably be even more overpowered than Marcus, and, that would make, things even more unbalanced. Because we all know how ridiculous Robin was in Awakening. I still like that, like, it's like, oh hey, with Robin, we actually have the tactician be a playable character this time. Oh, that guy's Rebecca's dad, isn't he? I kind of forgot about that. Which kind of really says something. Rebecca's actually got, like, a bit more relevance than you would think, though. Her supports are kind of interesting, and she can potentially be, she can potentially marry Lowen, and, with that, Lowen can potentially be the father of a playable character in Binding Blade. Because yes, the reason why Rebecca is not supposed to be able to die when she hits 0 HP, she's meant to have plot armor, but they kind of forgot to give her plot armor, and she just dies like most non-armored units. Non-plot armored, I mean. My bow may not be all that much, but I know I could be of service. Oh boy, you know your place in the tier list, I guess. But yeah, so the reason for that is because she has a son in Binding Blade. And her son is actually kind of, well, he's meant to be relevant. But I'll probably talk about that when I get around to playing Binding Blade. For now, this is just justifying Rebecca actually joining us. Was. But as I said, Rebecca does have some very interesting supports in this game. Of course, one in particular that, Oh, wow, you served Eliwood's father's father, who I don't think we even get a name on that guy. But yep, she's off, and that is the end of that chapter, taking leave. It's a pretty quick one. And with that, you won't be seeing Team Eliwood again for quite some time. And by that point, who knows what characters I will have decided to train. Next time, we find out what Hector was doing while all of this went down.
Eliwood is not built as sturdy as I am. I hope he doesn't do anything reckless.